tenebrous roots of Dunwich's prosperity. Delve deeper than its denizens dare acknowledge, fed by tributaries of unspeakable darkness. What commenced as an investigation into the disappearance of children has led me through increasingly blasphemous revelations about this sequestered New England hamlet. The pattern manifests with hideous clarity, every half-century. With mathematical precision, this town offers its innocence to powers beyond mortal comprehension in exchange for continued abundance. Journal entry April 5th, 1965. Old Miller's Grove. Local murmurings guided me to this primordial clearing where they whisper eldritch lights cavort among ancient trees during the new moon. The vegetation here defies natural law in ways that suggest nameless horror. Roots writhe with awful purpose, and the trees seem to occupy impossible positions when observed from varying angles. Upon the most ancient oak, I discovered curious carvings that suggest pre-Columbian fertility symbols, though their execution hints at far more antediluvian origins. Mrs. Whately, the widow of our town's late keeper of forbidden knowledge, spoke of children's voices raised in terrible song from within the lightless woods, though no mortal child was ever found. More disturbing still are the architectural drawings I unearthed in the town's archives. Crude sketches from 1915 showing identical patterns in precisely the same location. The artist vanished shortly after documenting these blasphemous geometries. The clearing reminds me of the stories my grandmother used to tell, warnings wrapped in fairy tales to keep children safe from the wood's depths. As I trace the ancient markings on the oak, my fingers remember how I used to smooth my little brother's hair when nightmares woke him. The children's voices Mrs. Whately described. They echo with a familiar innocence that makes my heart ache. As twilight descended, casting long shadows that seemed to reach for me with peculiar intent, I perceived movement at the grove's periphery. A figure, distant, yet watching. When I turned to look directly, it had vanished into the lengthening shadows, leaving behind only the impression of a gray coat and a gaze that carried the weight of recognition. Journal entry April 8th, 1965. Abandoned Chapman Farm. The old Chapman place squats against the horizon like a cancer, its weathered boards the color of old bones. Tonight, I witnessed something that strains sanity's boundaries, events that make my hand tremble even now as I write. Following reports of strange growth patterns in the fallow fields, I discovered a circle of fungal structures arranged in geometric configurations that seemed to pulse with inner light. The formation stirred something deep within my consciousness, memories of crafting shadow puppets to comfort scared children during storms. But whose children? The recollections feel simultaneously intimate and alien, like photographs from someone else's family album that somehow feature my face. The air grew thick with spores that formed impossible shapes before my eyes, writing symbols that seemed familiar yet wrong, like words from a half-remembered dream. What happened next I hesitate to commit to paper. The largest fungal mass began to move with hideous purpose, its surface rippling with patterns that matched the ancient carvings in the grove. Tendrils of vegetable matter emerged from the earth, forming patterns that hurt the eye to observe. I fled, though in truth I cannot say if I ran away from or towards something greater than myself. A man in a gray coat stood motionless on the road, watching my retreat. His presence awakens echoes of recognition I dare not examine too closely. How long has he been following me? I've seen him 3 times now. First at the edge of Miller's Grove, then near the library archives, and now here. Each time he stands just at the edge of clear sight, as if deliberately placing himself where light and shadow meet. His stillness is unnatural, more akin to the waiting trees than any human observer. Journal entry, April 12th, 1965. Dean's Hollow. The disappearances follow a pattern I'm beginning to understand, though my mind recoils from the implications. Each child vanished during what locals call the green hour, that strange twilight when the setting sun casts verdant shadows through the ancient woods. The light here behaves oddly, bending around corners and lingering in spaces where shadows should be. Today I found small footprints leading into a grove where the trees grow in spiral patterns, their branches weaving together to form archways that seem to lead into deeper darkness than should be possible. They ended at a massive trunk split into what appeared to be a doorway. The bark around it worn smooth as if by countless small hands. Found between the roots, a weathered note written in shaking hand. The harvest must proceed. They come willingly when called. We speak not of this. The tracks remind me of winter mornings long past, of tiny feet in fresh snow, always looking back to ensure I followed. The memory carries an unsettling weight. Like all my recollections of late, they feel both utterly real and somehow borrowed, as if I'm wearing someone else's life like an ill-fitting coat. As darkness fell, I witnessed transformations that defy description. The trees themselves seemed to breathe, their branches reaching like countless arms toward some unseen supplicant. The ground burst with sudden growth, flowers that should not exist blooming and withering in seconds, releasing spores that danced in patterns suggesting terrible meaning. Each blossom opened to reveal centers that looked disturbingly like watching eyes. The gray-coated figure appeared again, closer now. His stance suggested recognition, a hunter's patience. But who is stalking whom? Sometimes I catch him watching me through windows, his reflection appearing in mirrors just as I turn away. He thinks himself the pursuer, but something in me knows different, a knowledge that tastes of old leaves and older secrets. Journal entry, April 15th, 1965. Waitley Bridge. Nearly met my end today. Following the sound of children's laughter deep into the woods, I discovered a clearing where reality itself seemed to thin. My grandmother's words echo in my mind. Being strong means protecting those who cannot protect themselves. But as I approach the central mass that my mind refuses to properly recall, centuries of memories cascade through my consciousness. Memories of other harvests, other children. Other times I wore this same face. The clearing itself seems to breathe. The air shimmers with an oily iridescence, and the ground beneath my feet pulses with a rhythm that matches no earthly heartbeat. The children's voices seem to come from everywhere and nowhere, speaking words that taste of ancient forests and forgotten rituals. Something deeper than maternal instinct draws me forward. A hunger disguised as compassion. A predator's patience wrapped in gentle smiles. The entire grove came alive. Branches twisted into impossible geometries. Roots erupted from the ground like serpents, and something moved in the shadows that spoke of greater purpose. The trees formed patterns I recognized from the old drawings, but now I understand they weren't drawings at all. They were warnings, or perhaps invitations. The man in the gray coat stood at the clearing's edge. The recognition in his eyes speaks of a truth I can no longer deny. His pursuit has grown bolder. No longer content to watch from shadows, he now stands in plain sight, his hand clutching something that glints like silver in the dying light. A camera? A weapon? Both are equally useless against what waits in these woods. Final entry, April 17th, 1965. This will be my last night in Dunwich. The horrors I've uncovered here will haunt my dreams forever, though I question now whose dreams they truly are. Every maternal instinct, every protective urge, were they mine or her mimicry? I remember every child from every harvest, their trust in my gentle guidance. The horror isn't in what I am, but in how deeply I feel their loss. Even now, as I write these final words, shadows gather beneath my door. Footsteps approach in the corridor, measured and deliberate. The man in gray thinks he hunts me, but he does not understand. He was chosen long ago, like all the others. The wind carries strange whispers tonight, and I wonder, does the black goat weep when the harvest is done? I wonder, because tonight, I do.
Hanglu inautumagluanaf, shub-niggurath fatagna, ziggurath katan, yurta uln, ilya shaggaludronat, kayala ornat tagsh ilya, nokti iglmana.
Urgent regarding the disappearance of Jeremiah Blackwood. With trembling hands, I set these words to paper, knowing they may be my last contribution to our investigation. The daguerreotype from 1915 changed everything. That accursed photograph showing her face, unchanged through 50 years of cosmic horror. The same Gerwenifer Wrath, standing before the twisted trees of Dunwich, her penetrating gaze piercing through time itself with eldritch purpose. We were wrong about everything. She is not human. She never was. She is the herald of shub-niggurath, gathering innocence for the Dark Mother's eternal hunger. The investigation was but a veil behind which she documented her own terrible harvest. Even now I hear branches scratching at my window, their shadows cast by no earthly light. The children's voices rise in blasphemous song in the trees. Dear God, the trees are walking.